The show is set in a world full of hopeless teens, addicted to the internet. These miserable children waste their lives glued to their screens. To help these teens recover from internet addiction, the Elite Re-Education Academy was established. Our story begins as a young teen angrily bulldozes a horde of zombies. He takes a sip of water from his bottle and notices a game over screen. The boy seems confused, but suddenly the world goes dark. The boy wakes up in an empty warehouse with 4 other boys. He thinks he has traveled to a game world, but the serious looks on the other boys' faces tell another story. A few burly men enter with an authoritative woman, Headmistress Jean. She tells the shocked boys that they're in the Elite Re-Education Academy. The scene shifts to the ground inside the school. A student, exhausted from running, begs an instructor to let him rest. All he gets is a vicious beating. Somewhere nearby, a purple-haired boy looks at the data of the newcomers. Back at the warehouse, one of the boys gets terrified and charges at the instructors. He gets beat up, and the man orders the other 3 to line up. He introduces himself as head instructor Cheyenne and tells the boys to only obey him and the headmistress. Calling out the names of the boys, he notes Hibiki, a special boy knocked unconscious and forcibly enrolled by his mother. The purple-haired boy laughs simultaneously while reading these records. Hibiki thinks it was a mistake, but Cheyenne tells him it was his mother's request. He then asks the boy if he is staring at the headmistress's body. Hibiki initially denies it and gets knocked down. Cheyenne questions if he thinks the headmistress isn't beautiful, and Hibiki admits he was indeed looking. After smacking him around and warning him to control himself, Cheyenne takes the boys out. The instructors take the boys to their housing and tell them that their hours will be from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. later. Hibiki, terrified of the place, runs away, remembering his mother's words. He goes to a roof and finds the place to be walled on all 4 sides with watchtowers, completely sealed. On the ground, the instructors realize one of the boys is missing and order for a search. Hibiki is sitting on the edge of the roof thinking of ending himself when a purple-haired boy stops him. He tells him that if he's going out anyway, he should aim for one of the instructors. Hibiki gets terrified of the crazy boy, who reminds him that it won't matter to anyone if 1 out of the 1,000 students dies. The boy then tells Hibiki that if he joins him, he will turn him into a real man. Hibiki feels nervous and says that he doesn't prefer flat girls, prompting the angry boy to tell him he's a man. Hibiki immediately backs off, saying he doesn't swing that way, further angering him. The boy then takes out some binoculars and tells him to choose a girl. Hibiki selects a pretty girl he recognizes called Shiori and wonders if the boy can get her. The boy, named Shin, leaves after telling him she'll be his and that he's his master from now on. He takes Hibiki downstairs and meets the instructors. Shin tells him that Hibiki is now his dog and he'll take care of him. Cheyenne leaves and reports to the headmistress, where a dangerous man mocks him for being troubled by a stud. Hibiki happily follows Shin, who approaches a boy called Wudo. Wudo then approaches a girl and starts harassing her. He puts a hand in her shirt and pulls out a mobile phone, forbidden in the school. More boys join him in the search and start harassing the helpless girl when Shiori puts a knife to Wudo's neck. She takes down a few of his underlings before some instructors arrive. Shiori is then about to leave with the girl when she notices Hibiki. She takes him with her to give him first aid. Somewhere in an office, the officer Hayo laughs at Cheyenne and tells him to keep an eye on the new student. Back to Shiori, she takes Hibiki and the girl to a warehouse. She tends to Hibiki's wounds before noticing a bulge and calling him a pervert. Turning to the girl, she demands a trade. Shiori offers to teach her to use a knife if she can smuggle a phone for her. She tells her that she can use the knife to end it if she's in a corner. The girl angrily refuses her trade and Shiori coldly walks away when she encounters Shin. He holds the phone in his hand and tells the girls they can have it if they make Hibiki a man. The other girl goes up to Hibiki and acts all cute, trying to seduce him. Hibiki immediately agrees to do it, and Shin mocks the girl. He notes that Jun had been a runaway girl who had stolen money from her parents to give to a fake idol. Despite being a criminal, her parents pulled strings and sent her to the school. Shin accuses her of seducing an instructor to get the phone, and Jun angrily denies it before lashing out at him. Shiori stops her, and she runs away, swearing revenge. Shin leaves Shiro to her promise, and she closes the curtains. Shoving Hibiki onto a pile of boxes, she leans in. When Hibiki feels her breast, he immediately leaves the world and goes on a celestial journey. He feels as if he has found the universe's biggest truth as Shiori leans in for the kiss. However, she immediately starts gagging, forcing herself to kiss him. Shiori ends up puking in his mouth and the two puke their guts out. Afterward, Hibiki tells her that he doesn't need to use her body, and outside, Shin, using Jun's phone, confirms she's not an ordinary girl. Inside, Hibiki offers to help Shiro get a cell phone and escape the school. She refuses his help, saying she doesn't trust people anymore. Hibiki then decides to rub some proof out for her but finds himself unable to perform. He then puts some other sticky liquid into a vial for her. Shiori leaves before telling him that she'll protect him from bullies. In Wudo's dorm, he seems angry that Shin gave him a locked phone and took it away for Shiori. Back at the warehouse, Shin asks Hibiki for his proof and is surprised by the amount. Hibiki then tells him that he shouldn't use women's bodies for his own means but gets pinned to the wall. Shin reminds him of his place and tells him that he is his dog. Hibiki runs away, saying he doesn't accept his condition. However, Shin is not surprised by his behavior. Hibiki goes to his dorm and gets guided by the dorm master. He meets his roommates, who throw him a little celebration. After the big bro dorm master leaves, the boys turn on Hibiki and ask him for food. He seems confused when they ask him to get some good food from Shin. Hibiki later leaves, worried about what to do. He is only able to get free meals for them, as better meals require expensive meal tickets. He returns to his room with the meals, but the boys are surprised. They throw it away, not wanting to eat the slop. Hibiki then tells them about his situation with Shin and they all get disappointed, saying Big Brother was expecting food. The boys then decide to beat him up, but Hibiki discovers that they're all a bunch of malnourished weaklings. He realizes that Big Bro has been exploiting the boys, and leaves to talk with him despite their protests. In his room, Big Bro Bin sits playing games. Hibiki comes in and argues with him to stop using the boys for himself and slacking off, then dismisses him, thinking he's an idiot as Hibiki leaves for training. Somewhere else in an alley, Shiori tries cracking her phone in vain. She sees Jun, who tells her to give it back in exchange for a working phone. Shiori refuses to trust her and leaves after warning her. Back at the training ground, Hibiki barely arrives on time. He gets introduced to their strict training rules and realizes that the school provides military training instead of mainly focusing on their addiction. The kids begin running and enter a grueling training routine. While holding a squat, some kids begin collapsing as Cheyenne comes over. He beats them up for their inadequacy despite them being malnourished and overworked. Hibiki guards the students from Cheyenne and tells him to stop hurting them. Cheyenne starts roughing him up when he defends himself. Angry, Cheyenne wipes his nose as he prepares to ruin Hibiki. Nearby, Shiryo is watching the scene and decides to interfere. Hibiki tells Cheyenne that he'll report him to the police, but he just abuses him more, telling him he's the law here. Hibiki refuses to apologize when Shiori comes up. She knocks him down and kneels to Cheyenne, apologizing as student council president. Hibiki is surprised she's doing this and struggles to get free. He refuses to bend despite Shiori telling him there's nothing they can do. As she shoves her away, her phone drops out. Some girls come up and hold her down and some instructors pin Hibiki down as well. Cheyenne decides to punish his classmates in his stead. Hibiki watches as the instructors brutally beat his classmates. Nearby, Shiori gets slapped by every female student and forced to endure humiliation. Hibiki finally ends up apologizing to stop the madness. Everyone leaves, as he realizes how foolish and pointless his acts of heroism were. Shin comes up to him and mocks him, before putting forth 3 conditions. He tells him that he'll have to prove himself worthy of being his dog and ruling the school, and Hibiki agrees. In Jean's office, Cheyenne reports to her. Somewhere else, Jun secretly talks to an instructor. Back in Shin's room, his roommates complain about the loser newcomer when he comes in and proclaims himself as leader. They start laughing at him, but he gives them meat and good food. The starved boys immediately agree and pledge loyalty to him. For his next task, Hibiki goes to Wudo's room and hits him before running away. Getting chased by him and his underlings, Hibiki remembers Shin's advice. He remembers his past as a long-distance runner and tires the kids out. One by one, he takes out the kids with his jacket filled with bricks and taunts Wudo. Wudo orders his gang to surround him. The kids trip on some spilled mung beans and fall onto pointed pins. As his lackeys lay incapacitated, Wudo runs after Hibiki. Hibiki goes back to his class, noting the time. Wudo manages to make it in with him before curfew as the rest of the lackeys get locked outside. Hibiki then reveals his own roommates who beat Wudo up with him. The next morning, Hibiki turns in Wudo to Cheyenne with a bunch of mobile phones. He tells him that he caught him smuggling and turned Wudo into repent. Cheyenne approves and accepts his apology before having Wudo sent to 1 week of solitude. Later, Headmistress Jean is seen talking to some parents in her office. Their son had escaped from the facility and promised to behave, but went back to using the internet again. Jean promises to reform him and talks to Cheyenne after the parents leave. She begins punishing him, taking out her sadism on the instructor. From a narrow gap, someone watches their activity from outside. Later, an instructor visits Wudo's cell. Wudo begs him to let him out and tells him that he knows where Jun's phone is. Instructor Ryo leaves after learning that it's with Shin, with Wudo getting interrogated behind. He remembers asking Cheyenne for safekeeping Jun's phone and her telling him that he got a fake. Frustrated, Ryo vows to take both Shin and Cheyenne down. Meanwhile, Shin takes Hibiki to his hideout, a luxurious little apartment on the roof. Hibiki asks Shin how his fight with Wudo went so smoothly. He realizes that while Bin may have been bought off, the instructors strangely didn't interfere. Shin then congratulates him and tells him that there are other kids involved with instructors and able to smuggle phones in. He tells him to deal with Yo of Class 6, after which he'll gain Cheyenne's trust and be able to smuggle phones himself. Hibiki finds this reasonable but knows that he has one phone himself. Shin tells him that just giving that phone to Shiori won't make her like him, as he still was just a newbie. He tells him that he needs to defeat all threats and rule the school in order to be taken seriously, and Hibiki agrees. Somewhere outside, Shiori is suddenly assaulted by a girl. She tosses her away and is confronted by her little sister. Back at Hibiki's dorm, he asks his roommates to help him take Yo down, but the kids are unconvinced. They think that Yo is too dangerous and are unwilling to trust Hibiki. Hibiki gets upset and leaves after calling them a bunch of losers. Meanwhile, Ryo visits Shin's house and chokes him. Shin warns that he'll be in trouble if he dies, and Ryo claims that he's just speeding it up. Back to Shiori, she defeats the girls, who introduce themselves as Hoku and Akane and claim they want to work with her. At Shin's place, Ryo suddenly gets knocked down by a tall boy. Shin tells him that he's his bodyguard he got with permission from the headmistress. He tells him that he doesn't have Jun's phone and that Hibiki ran off with it. Meanwhile, Shin walks to a place Shin told him to go, but finds himself in a dead end. A few students approach him, wishing to beat him up and become leaders themselves. Hibiki turns around and starts hitting himself. Shifting to Shiori, Akane reveals a bunch of modified cell phones to her. She is a hacker who has smuggled phones and modified them to access the school's local network. She knows from records that Shiori needs a phone to contact her little brother in the hospital. She then reveals a spot where phones are regularly collected and offers to get one for her. Back to Hibiki. He beats himself up and splatters ketchup all over with his help, acting righteously. He calls for the instructor's help. Cheyenne shows up and sends the ringleader to 3 days in suspension. The rest of the boys fearfully stare at Hibiki, who reassures them that his main target is gone. He asks the boys for help in exchange for a meat dinner, to which they readily agree. Back to Shiori, she agrees to work with Akane. On his rooftop, Shin watches everyone with binoculars. Downstairs, Shiori approaches Hibiki and his new gang, and Akane immediately falls in love with Hibiki. Shiori demands that he hand over his cell phone to her. His lackey starts threatening and mocking the girls when Hoku knocks them all down. Shiori is about to attack Hibiki as well when Shin appears. He warns the girls to lay off his dog and tells them to join him. Shiri refuses and insults Hibiki for becoming Shin's dog. The girls threaten to attack them, but Shin and Hibiki run away. They get chased into a room where students from grade 6 await. Yo and Ban are present there. Yo beats up Hoku, which confuses Hibiki. Shin tells him that they're his new comrades and Ban holds the 2 girls. He claims that Hibiki disobeyed him and is getting one last chance. Shin tosses Hibiki a phone and tells him to take a picture of the girls naked for blackmail. Hibiki, initially hesitating, agrees. The scene shifts to the cafeteria, where a nerdy kid called Moku is getting bullied. He leaves with his lunch to eat outside when Cheyenne approaches him. He asks Cheyenne to help him, but Cheyenne tells him to man up and leaves. His helplessness reminds Cheyenne of a painful memory. During a mission, a spy had outed their location and his senior police officer had offered to sacrifice his life to save the mission. Back to Shiori, Hibiki has her set down to undress her. Suddenly, he throws his shirt at Ban's face and tackles him, setting Akane and Hoku free. The 2 girls run away as Shiori and Hibiki get left behind. Ben and Ryo enter the room when the instructor starts questioning Hibiki. He claims that Hibiki is hiding a cell phone and using a honey trap to blackmail other girls for his own needs. Ryo takes out Hibiki's phone and finds him guilty, as Shin smugly reminds him that Ryo is Class 6 Seconds instructor and mocks him for thinking he can protect the girls. Hibiki is taken away for 2 weeks of solitary confinement and the girls get punished with cleaning duties. Hibiki gets locked in a jail. Betrayed by even the guy who used him as a dog, he realizes his foolishness. He decides to never trust anyone again and reforms himself. We see Cheyenne's memories again. Despite his duties, Cheyenne did not do his part and called for reinforcements, choosing to hide instead. Upon returning alive, Cheyenne would get belittled by everyone for being the sole survivor. He would wake up in cold sweats remembering his brother's dead face. Later, Cheyenne went to his internet-addicted son to try to make amends, but the boy complained that his father never even saw him or spent time with him. Weakened by stress, the poor boy collapsed and died. This would further damage Cheyenne and make him quit his job as a police officer. He would later meet his senior officer's daughter, Jean, to apologize. Finding her torturing her old husband, Cheyenne gets horrified. The man tried screaming at Jean about the stranger when suddenly he felt intense pain. Struggling but bound, he begged Jean to give him his medicine, but she refused. Cheyenne gets horrified at Jean's actions and scolds her for being so ruthless. He tells her that her father was an honest, good man when she gets angry and starts whipping him. Reminded of how her father neglected her, Jean keeps punishing Cheyenne, who feels relief from his guilt. He tells Jean to keep on doing it. the pain easing his guilt for abandoning his senior. Back to the present, Cheyenne is overseeing some operations in the school when Ryo approaches him. He tells him that Hibiki and Shin are causing havoc in the school, and he will be held responsible for their actions as head instructor. Cheyenne scoffs and leaves after telling him to mind his own business. He visits Hibiki's cell and finds him training vigorously. Somewhere in the bathrooms, the girls are cleaning. Ayaka complains that her feet hurt when Shiori reminds her that it's way better than having her photos leaked. Hoku suddenly remembers something and asks Shiori about her status. She is confused that Shiori, the honors student type, would wind up in this school. Shiori stays silent, and Akane decides to get her a cell phone to connect to the school's local network. Once 2 weeks are up, an instructor orders Hibiki to get out of his cell. He finds him strangely silent and wonders if he's alright. Hibiki, with a calm look, reassures the instructor as the man gets unnerved by his strange behavior. Outside, Akane runs away from a group of boys. She bumps into Moku and gets cornered by them. They're about to harass her when Hibiki steps in. One of the boys mocks him for being cocky and tries to attack him, but Hibiki attacks his weak point and knocks him down. He fights the gang, attacking joints and crotches to take advantage of the opponent's weaknesses. After the bullies are down, Ayaka takes Hibiki away to tend to his injuries. She takes him to a warehouse and lovingly pounces on Hibiki, who just wanted to work with her. Hoku and Shiryo also come in. Shifting to Jean's office, she gets approached by Ryo. Ryo stands close to her and tries to seduce her. He tells her that she should try out a young stud instead of the old Cheyenne, and Jean turns around to test him. Back on the school grounds, Hibiki sincerely apologizes to Cheyenne for his actions and claims that he has repented. Cheyenne gets emotional and accepts his apology, dumbfounding everyone else. Suddenly, another instructor arrives with his class. He brings over the girls' classes and tells Cheyenne that his girls have been training in martial arts. He challenges Cheyenne's class in a show of power, and his girls easily beat up the untrained boy. The instructor starts gloating when Hibiki walks up. He remembers offering to work with Hoku and Ayaka if he could defeat them by himself. Hibiki goes up to Hoku to fight her. He starts introducing himself and exchanging pleasantries. Hoku sees his rising hand and raises her own hand to shake it, but suddenly feels it on her breast instead. Hibiki mocks her as everyone else gets shocked out of their minds. An enraged Hoku starts blindly slugging attacks at Hibiki, who dodges and blocks each of them. Nearby, Hoku's instructor is still confident that the professionally trained athlete will defeat Hibiki. However, Hoku soon starts tiring out. Hibiki finds a gap in her defense and immediately locks her in a choke, defeating her. The girls run over to defend Hoku, but she stops them and accepts her defeat. Her instructor gets angry and calls the win unfair, but Cheyenne reminds him that the untrained Hibiki had no other choice if he wanted to win. He offers to spar with the instructor himself, which immediately shuts him out. The man is terrified of Cheyenne, who immediately beats up all other instructors in sparring after joining the school. Class 6 comes up and Ryo offers another challenge to Cheyenne. He mocks Hibiki for defeating a girl and brings up Yo to fight him. Hibiki is nervous but decides to accept the challenge. Ryo remembers how Jean tortured him and threatened him with Shin's big brother's name. He had decided to take revenge on Cheyenne because of her. Hibiki proposes that since he is untrained in martial arts, a fair proposal would be to do a non-fighting challenge. He challenges Yo to a challenge of standing at attention. The boy accepts and Cheyenne sets them up. An hour goes by as the boys keep standing still in the sun, holding their calm. Kids nearby start collapsing as the match drags out to over 3 hours. Cheyenne breaks the fight as obviously both boys are at their limits and calls it a draw. Yo is surprised that Hibiki would be this strong and be able to mock him. Moku offers to take the tired Hibiki to his room. Once there, Hibiki orders him to get a bucket of cold and hot water. Moku runs off and gets him the buckets. Suddenly, an angry Yo barges into his room. Hibiki immediately tosses the 2 buckets at him. Hibiki tells Yo that getting drenched in cold water and immediately getting doused by hot water after such a workout would mess up his muscles. Yo tries to charge at him but shivers and falls down. Yo's underling gets Hibiki and tries to get nearby boys to help. Hibiki tells them that this is their chance to get rid of Yo's tyranny, but one of the boys seems unsure. Suddenly, Moku beats the underling down and sets Hibiki free. The other boys realize that Hibiki has defeated Yo and agree to take him as their leader. Hibiki leans down and shows the boys what happens to people who challenge him. We then see a scene from some time ago. Shin is seen standing at a funeral where people discuss his mother's passing. Apparently, she was a mistress who died from drugs. After people leave, Shin's big brother and Hayo come up to him. His brother tells him to stop crying over his mother, and Shin mocks him by saying his mother's killer is right here. His brother seems horrified and decides to send Shin away to correct him. At present, Hibiki beats Yo up, determined to teach Shin a lesson next. He dreams about racing with Shiori. The two win a joint race together when suddenly Hibiki notices corpses scattered all over the ground. A voice inside him tells him that this is his doing and that being a strong, ruthless person is his purpose. Hibiki denies it but gets attacked by the other Hibiki. Shiori is the only one left and stands between them to protect him. He finally wakes up with Moku watching over him. A bunch of students come up to him and apologize. Shin notes their sudden change of heart but forgives them anyway. He wonders about the school going quiet despite the big event of Yo being defeated. He thinks that Shin may have pitted him and Yo against each other for his own reasons. He then asks the boys about news on Shin, but they have nothing to report. Hibiki leaves before warning them to not bully Moku and to keep looking out for Shin. Somewhere in the car, Hayo talks to Shin's big brother on the phone. He learns that Shin has gone missing and is told to bring him back. Meanwhile, Hoku and Shiori beat up Yo's former underling and get a cell phone from him. Back at Jin's office, Hayo hits Cheyenne for letting the school run wild. Jin defends him and says that student fighting is rather common, but he reminds her that Shin is a special person to look out for. Hayo leaves to manage the students after telling Cheyenne to rest. Outside, he asks Ryo about what really happened to Shin. The scene shifts to the warehouse where the girls are gathered. Shiori tells the other two that they should look for Jun since Shin is missing right now. Akane once again questions how Shiori ended up in their school despite being a good girl as Shiori recalls a certain painful memory. The girls are joined by Hibiki and Shiori leaves, thinking they'll all hate her if they know her background. Hibiki takes Akane and Hoku to Shin's old hideout. Somewhere in a dark room, Jun clings to Hayo and asks him to avenge her. Inside Shin's room, Hibiki finds a lot of chocolate, medicine, and some phones. Somewhere else, Shiori encounters Jun. Jun knows that Shiori is in the school for an infinite duration of time and offers to release her in 2 days if she does what she says. We then see Hibiki near some sewers, wondering about Shin's plans. A flashback sends us to Shiori's memories. Her father had just passed away and she held her little brother Shu in her arms. Comforting Shu, she told him that he still had her and her mother. Unfortunately, she would soon find out her own mother had died through drugs. The two kids ended up orphans and Shu tried to comfort Shiori. They were sitting on the road by themselves when one of their relatives, an uncle, showed up. He offered to take the kids in and protect them, and Shiori happily agreed. One day, her brother suddenly got sick. He had started suffering from a genetic illness with high treatment cost. Her uncle benevolently offered to pay the kids' treatment fees at Shiori's relief. However, it came at a cost. One day, her uncle decided to get close to Shiori and ask her for some service. The girl wanted to refuse but bared with his demands for her own sake. Later, she washed herself clean, disgusted by what she went through. During one of their sessions, Shiori had enough and realized that their kind uncle had only been using her own parents' money to help them. She took out a knife and castrated the man, who sent her away in his fury. Back to the present, Hibiki asks Moku for any whereabouts of Shin. He asks Moku how he had escaped the first time, and he reveals that Shin had given him a map of the sewers. After getting out, Moku had released info on the school to the internet, but it had gotten taken down quickly. The next day, the students gather for their daily training. They notice how united Hibiki's class is when Hayo comes over. He tells the students that Cheyenne is suspended and that he will be taking care of them now. Hayo remarks how one of them has already disposed of Class 6 Seconds leader. He puts the kids through a cruel routine, and as one of them is unable to keep up, he lifts him up. Hibiki comes out, confesses, and offers to take responsibility for the student. Hayo takes him away, promising to punish him. He takes him to his office and offers Hibiki some tea. The instructor tells Hibiki that he is the most important boy in school right now, having beaten up Yo and Wudo and becoming a household name there. He offers to help Hibiki rule over the school as long as he listens to him and helps him run his cell phone business. Hibiki agrees to his terms and Hayo takes him to a cell where Shiori is captive. Looking at Shiori's pitiful state, Hibiki starts laughing and mocks her. He tells Hayo that he is convinced power is the way to rule everyone and will do his best to help him out. Later, Hibiki goes to the warehouse and gives Hoku and Ayako a certain map. He gets Jun's phone for Hayo and asks for a reward in return. Hibiki carries Shiori on his back and collapses on the ground. He laments how heavy she is fearfully and tells her she'll soon be able to escape. In a flashback, Shin remembers his mother's corpse. A certain needle mark was present on her arm, as he suspected Hayo had injected her with something. He remembered how everyone taunted him for being the son of a mistress. At present, he is inside an underground facility. With fuel cans nearby, Shin prepares to give his big brother a gift. In the school, training goes on as normal. Hoku, Akane, and Moku have called in sick and are absent. Cheyenne has returned and announced that Hibiki is the new student council president and disciplinary officer. Hibiki remembers a chat he had with Hayo previously. He had told him to search for Shin, and Hibiki left after saying he had a score to settle with him anyway. Inside Hayo's office, Ryo seemed distrustful of Hibiki, but Hayo believed that Hibiki was a power-hungry trash who would do anything and could simply be disposed of if he disobeyed. Ryo remarks that Hayo chose Jun but punished her when she lost his cell phone. In the school, a few of Hibiki's classmates beat some boys up. He gets the boys up and tells them to stop before asking them for a favor. Hibiki drops a bomb, saying this will be their last day of training at this school. Somewhere outside at a media center, certain news of horrible torture and abusive practices at the academy spreads through the country like wildfire. Hibiki's own mother also catches wind of this news. In the evening, reporters soon start storming the entrance of the school and asking questions. Hayo receives news of this and panics. He orders the school to shut down. Outside, Headmistress Jean arrives to answer the reporters. Somewhere else, Shori lay recovering on a bed with Moku, Akane, and Hoku nearby. The troublemaker Akane had leaked news of the school's tales. Inside the school, instructors roam the classes and try to gather students but find them in a different mood. Hayo is about to go out to the gate but is stopped by Hibiki. Hibiki starts stalling him and tells him that he has found Shin. Hayo gets angry and knocks him to the ground. He grabs him by the collar and demands he tell him everything, but Hibiki headbutts him and gets free. Hayo then notices Cheyenne behind him, who tells him to give up. Hayo tells him that all the police will find is a harsh environment but nothing illegal. He claims that the students have nothing to prove anything illegal, but realizes that none of the students are actually on the ground. Cheyenne tells him that he cannot control them forever, as somewhere inside the school, Shin spills fuel all over. He lights a fire on the rooftop as everyone notices. The reporters outside immediately called the fire department and the police called. Cheyenne tells Hibiki to get up and tells Hayo that he won't let him go anywhere. Hibiki leaves before telling Cheyenne he is grateful for his teachings, as Cheyenne faces off against the arrogant Hayo. He easily defeats Hayo and knocks him down. We see scenes of students and instructors alike lying around the school. Past memories of Hibiki getting Ayaka and the others to escape from the sewers and encountering Cheyenne with Ban. At present, Hibiki makes his way up to Shin's hideout and finds him near the fire tracing the outline of blaring police sirens in the distance. Shin turns around and sees a smiling Hibiki as tears finally flow down his eyes and the show comes to a fitting end. That's all for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.